There is a strong case to be made that I may have stumbled across the best value for money grip socks in 2024 right at the end of the year. These Frankenstein's monster of socks are just fantastic, and they come in at 11 euros, or there's a 4-pack for 31 euros, and these are better than the majority of grip socks that I've tried this year. We will of course rank them at the end of the video, but I'm almost baffled by quite how good they are for how little money they cost. What we are looking at here are the Optimize grip socks from the Boot Chamber. The Boot Chamber is best known as a football boot reseller on Instagram. And I got these socks, and there's clearly, if you know your grip socks at all, two distinct elements to this sock that have come from two very obvious places. The first one is this neck area here. You can obviously see I've used this sock a lot and kept this one nice and clean. So let's look at the nice and clean one. So this neck area here, this is a really lovely diamond pattern, comfortable, stretchy, yet retains its shape material. This is premium feeling, well beyond its 11 euro price tag. And looks remarkably similar to what you're going to get from WeFoot, to the point where there's almost an argument to be made that it's the same, but it is not. It is not identical. I think the WeFoot one has more of this diamond patterning running through it and is, as a result, slightly nicer. But I will admit, I love this shaping in the Optimize ones right at the top here. It's a very traditional shaping that you will find on an Adidas sock. So what we have here is something very similar to the top of an Adidas sock running into something that's very similar to the neck of a WeFoot sock. And I think that the neck of the WeFoot sock is maybe the best on the market, and this is fantastic as a version of that. And personally, aesthetically, I really like the top of the Nike sock, and you get that here as well. So there is huge plus points for 11 euros for this area of the sock. Yes, please. Moving down into kind of the footbed area of the sock and the grips, you do move into a style of material that is a little bit more of a crew sock style. It has good ventilation, the material feels nice, but it's definitely not as nice as what you're getting up the neck of the sock, and potentially feels a little over stretchy at times. However, these socks do come in sizes, which is again fantastic for a sock at this particular price point. You've got 3 different sizes to choose from, and that is going to help these fit you really well, even with maybe that little bit of overstretch. And I do think the material through the footbed can be a little bit on the slippy side. It doesn't compress quite enough for a premium grip sock, but these are 11 euros, and for 11 euros, they are still better than 90% of what you can get out there. Let's go back to our comparisons and have a look at the grips. And again, if you've seen grip socks anytime recently, you will know that once again we have an Adidas styling through the grips. These are the same shape pattern, however, I don't think, thankfully, the same material, because I dislike these Adidas grips a lot. I think they are very hard. I don't think they offer a whole heap of traction, and I think they crack and have horrible durability. Let's go to my used pair here, and you'll see that we don't have that same level of cracking at all. These have held together much nicer. I also think they are a little bit softer, and I also think they offer something that is more grippy. Now, this isn't necessarily my personal preference for a really high quality grip, but it is far superior to a silicone grip. This still works when it starts to get wet, which is silicone's major problem, and it's not intrusive. You don't feel it under your foot. It doesn't feel bad. And again, we consider this is €11 and it's providing all of these elements that are something I would expect from a sock that is a much higher price. So the grips here, better than silicone, and that is a huge plus as far as I'm concerned. Now, I do want to talk about something that I don't know if I've ever spoken about before, but it's just become noticeable on these socks. The way that the grips are bedded into the sock or attached seems to be putting pressure on the areas of material in between each individual grip. So it feels like the footbed actually needs reinforcing, because what we're doing is we're starting to pull apart the material in between the grips because there's too much force being applied to it. Now, this again, I think comes from that material, which I'm saying is maybe slightly overly stretchy and needs a little more structure. And if you had that through the base of the sock as well, that might prevent that kind of pulling from happening. I think here is a good example of where that's just started to pull a little bit. Again, the fact that I'm delving that far into elements of a sock that is €11, I think shows again how good it is that is the kind of detail I'm having to go into to find potential issues. So where are we ranking these? And it's a sock of many parts that fall into many categories that we might have to average out. We have the neck area of the sock, which is probably good enough to go into the very top tier, up into the foot fetish category. We have the grips, which done a lot better than a huge competitor in Adidas, and probably deserve to be in that second tier into foot spa. And then we have the material through the footbed of the sock, while being very comfortable, maybe doesn't offer the best structure for the sock as a whole. So that maybe goes in the middle tier. And then we have to consider you can get sizing, and I'm gonna say it one more time, the price. We have to consider how affordable these are, especially in something like the 4-pack at €30. So, to answer my question, where do they rank? And I think this is going to be a case of putting them in a tier and then putting them at one end or the other. I'm going to go ahead and put these in the foot spa category. So the second tier, so not the very top tier, not the middle tier, into that second tier. I feel like that's where the sock averages out when you consider how good some of the materials are and the price. However, I think there are socks within that tier that are more, maybe slightly better well-rounded than this one. So we are going to push it towards the bottom end of that particular tier. So if you want to ask the question, can I recommend them? I absolutely can. And if you want to see me rank a whole bunch more socks, you want to click some of the videos around my head.